Hi there, everyone. Allison Skalberg here, Consolidated Planning Group. We're so happy that you have taken the time to join us today. We are here today and we're going to be talking about the resistant preteen and teen learner and how to launch successfully. Today, we are here with Elizabeth Sharpe. She's got a master's in education and she is the owner of Sharpe Successful Solutions, LLC. And she's a learning and behavior therapist and has got 30 years of teaching experience, master's in education, and also spent time as a former college child development professor and school behavior interventionist. So we've got a lot of credentials here. We're excited to have Elizabeth back with us here today. I always like to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. We are in webinar mode today, which means that we can't see you or hear you, but we do know you're there, and we're glad that you're here and that you've joined us today. We're going for about an hour, so if you're planning your day, you can plan on that. Our chat box is open today, so if you have questions as Elizabeth is speaking today, we just ask that you put your questions in the chat box. I will be monitoring that throughout the presentation, and we hope to answer as many questions as we can. Consolidated Planning Group, we are a holistic special needs financial planning firm. We're nationally certified as Social Security advisors, members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and we stand ready to help your family plan for the future of your loved one with a disability. People come to us because they want to make sure that they can retire and stay retired and still have enough money to fund a special needs trust. They need answers on how much money do we need to fund that special needs trust, or how and when should we apply for public benefits, and what should we do, what should we not do. There's a lot of confusion. We do webinars on a regular basis every week, usually around the lunchtime hour. And these webinars were really born out of my own frustration. I am a parent to two adult kids with these. And I felt frustrated on how difficult everything is. Everything that we do is difficult, whether it's dealing with, government entities, Health and Human Services, the Social Security Administration, or learning challenges. The list continues and it goes on and on and on. And so these webinars were really born to equip you, to give you some tools and resources, so that way you feel empowered instead of defeated as you're navigating life with your loved one with a disability. So having said that, I am delighted to have Elizabeth Sharpe back here with us. And Elizabeth, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be back. I did a webinar before. If you want to go search for it, is how to homeschool your resistant learner. And that would be all learners if that's something that may be of use. As Allison said, my name is Elizabeth Sharpe. You've heard a little bit about my professional background. I've been in education for a really long time and served in a variety of roles. What I do now is, a couple of years ago, full time, I decided to work with parents and students directly. I trained teachers, for many, many years. I worked as a behavior interventionist in schools and decided that the best way I could do is equip parents. Like Allison, I have 3 children. My eldest, if you show that next picture, my eldest is almost 22 years old. She has 5 learning disabilities. And even though I was an educator at the time, I really did not know much about ADD and ADHD and special education and learning disabilities. And so we really, really were at a loss. My husband, who is a special ed educator, believe it or not, also missed so much. And the reason is because educators are trained in silos. They're not trained to understand everything and every student. And so as we walk through this with Maya, my eldest, we missed a lot. And I was so frustrated, like Allison, because no one told me the right information, or I would get the information from one person. And so as we walk through that journey with Maya, it definitely was a steep learning curve. I am happy to say I want to provide hope for you all if you are in the midst of the struggle, that Maya, and I don't say this to brag, but I say this to give you hope, that Maya is now 22. And she is a 15-year veteran of all-star cheerleading. She did not want to retire till she won a gold world's medal. She finally did 2 years ago. And now she moved to Miami, where she coaches in one of the top gyms in the world. In addition to that, she launched her own business a year and a half ago. She is fully profitable. I can commit to that. And we're so excited because she pays her own rent now. And she is a massage sports therapist. She also is heavily involved in her church as a youth leadership developer, and works with high school and junior high students. And she just started this week to get a college certification on leadership development, especially with youth development. And so I say all that because Maya was a resistant learner and did not like school at all. And when I tell you, for some reason, I have been blessed with 3 resistant learners, not just one, 3. My other son, Marcus, who Maya is holding, is 9 years old. We adopted him at birth. We met him when he was 4 months. By the time he was 13 months, he was ours. He came into the world. He was my second learning curve because Marcus is on the spectrum. He's on the spectrum. He has sensory issues. He is academically smart as a whip. Very advanced academically in his learning. However, his behavior was something to figure out. And even though he does not struggle with most academics, he does struggle with writing. He does not struggle with reading and math and vocabulary and spelling. He still does not like school. He does not like learning. So I have to tell you, he's resistant. And then we have Zachary. Zachary is the newest addition to our family. Zachary just turned 8. We met Zachary in February of this year when he was 7. He was in foster care for many years. And he came to us not only with a lot of different, as you can imagine, emotional and behavioral challenges, but he also came with quite a gap in academics. We are on the journey to fill in those gaps, but also trying to figure out what is happening with Mr. Zachary. And so I'm an expert, not just because I professionally have worked with families for many, many years, over 30 years, but also because every day I live this reality, and I can echo what Allison says, that there are days where you're like, oh my goodness. And so I want to share with you, not everything, but some things that hopefully will help you as you're walking through this. And I want to make this interactive if possible, because you shouldn't just listen to me talk for a whole hour. I want to hear what you have to say, and also what your questions are. What are the behaviors we see in resistant learners? When a child does not want to learn, when they struggle with homework, and let's go back to that previous slide, Miss Allison. Go ahead and put in the chat, what are some of the behaviors that you see in either your resistant learner, or if you are a teacher or you're a family child care provider and you're working with other students, what kind of behaviors would we see with someone who does not, quote unquote, want to read or do math or learn or do their homework? Procrastination. Absolutely. By the way, I just started working out. I procrastinated for many years. Daughter puts head down on desk and just doesn't want to do the work. Participation, doesn't matter the subject. Yep. She's letting us know this is not working for her. Absolutely. Those are very typical things. And if you really think about it, look at your own life. Maybe it's working out. Maybe it's eating healthy. Maybe it's balancing your bank account. Maybe it's cleaning out your closets. It doesn't matter what it is. We all have certain behaviors when we do not want to do something. Want to do something else instead? Yes, I would rather do anything else than work out. Yes, absolutely, right? We want to do something. We will procrastinate. We will make excuses. We will see our students do all the things, right? Sometimes they even rather clean their room than actually do any academics. One that I'm experiencing right now with my son is we homeschool our 2 youngest boys, but they do go to a hybrid school where they go to school 3 days, and he did not want to go to school. He let me know last night. He let me know this morning, I am not going to school. Okay. And so they will verbalize, I hate school. I don't want to go to school. They may cry. They may pretend they're sick. They may do all kinds of things. Right. And so, yes, those are perfect tantrums, arguments, throwing things, ripping up their homework. They're going to do all kinds of things. Even, I have to tell you this, I want everybody to really listen. Even if they can academically do the work, right? Because we have two sets of students. We have the students that I'm not doing this because I can't do it. It makes no sense for my brain. But we have another set of students who you've seen them do it, but they're like, not doing it. Let's talk about why. Let's move on to the next slide. If you are a parent, I want to hear in the chat. Step one, are you ready? I'm very practical. So step one, when you see your student have these behaviors, okay, I want you to, in the chat, put two things. One, how do you feel when you have a child that doesn't want to learn? And what are your fears? So please put those two things in the chat. What are your fears and how do you feel as a parent when your child does not want to learn? All right. And they're letting you know. Okay. Let me see. Pulling up my chat here. They are frustrated. You're frustrated. And here's, oh, I love that. Somebody shared with us, right? They will fall behind. I hear that a lot. They're not going to be at level, right? They won't graduate. What will they do in their life if they don't want to learn? What will happen after high school? What will happen after junior high? What will happen? Right. It's my problem and I need to solve. Absolutely. We hear that a lot from parents. I feel frustrated, sad because she doesn't seem to care. I'm afraid she won't get any points and will be able to care for herself in the future. She just turned 17. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I'm excited because I love working with teens. I do have clients that are adolescents from all the way from second grade to college. I actually work with college students who are frustrated. Absolutely. Those are very common things. All right. So we absolutely have those feelings. So let me give you a strategy, mom, dad, whoever's listening to this. All right. Grandma, grandpa. Step one is you need to make sure to identify your own emotion. And if your own emotion is negative in any way, shape, or form, or fearful, you cannot coach this child. Okay. We cannot coach students when we are emotionally not centered and in control. If we are feeling frustrated, angry, pissed off, tired, frustrated, all the things, then guess what? It's just going to get worse. All right. I'd like to tell you I've never experienced this, but I have. I have failed miserably many times. And so I speak from experience of what not to do. So that's step one. Step two is, and I speak to, I think it's Kelly. I don't have my glasses on, so I think it's Kelly. In the moment, you need to stay present, meaning don't go to the past. So don't say this to your child. Yesterday you did the homework. Okay, don't do that. Don't go to the past. Stay present. And then don't go into the future. Don't be like, okay, right, I'm scared and you'll never graduate. And what about college? And don't you realize you need this to be successful? Stop all that. Stop the sermonizing. Okay? Stay present. Stay now, today, right now, this second. Because what that's going to do, if you go to the past or go to the future, you're going to get more frustrated and your child is really going to become very, very frustrated, right? So let's talk about what we do. Go ahead and go to the next one, right? You have to understand that all behavior and all humans, by the way, not just children, but all humans, okay? All behavior is communication. That means that when your child is ripping up that piece of paper, they are telling you something. And I don't believe, and the research does not support, that the reason this child is not doing the work is just to make your life miserable or to be manipulative or to be disrespectful or to be rude. That is not what is happening, okay? They are telling you something, because guess what? Can children be disrespectful and rude? Absolutely. They can be. They're human. But here's the thing. The research, and in working with all the children I have worked with, tells us that children want parents to not nag them. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want you to take away the iPad and the field trips and whatever's coming up. And so if they can do their work, they're going to do it. Okay. But they're telling you something. And you, as the parent, we have the privilege of saying, let me figure out what is the communicating to us, right? Let's go to the next page. All right. Is it really that I do not want to learn? This is so, so, so important. So, 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 so important. All humans want to learn. All students are wired to learn, to grow their brain, which is a muscle. They come into the world from the time that they are born, and they are wired genetically to learn. All right. So all students want to learn. All students want to be successful in life. Adolescents especially want to be independent, be in charge of their own destiny, have their own money, do what they want to do, and be passionate about the work that they're going to do in life. And when you are an adolescent, okay, one of the questions between the ages of 13 and 19 that adolescents are asking themselves, even if they've never verbalized to you, is, what is my purpose in life? What am I going to do? Why am I here? Okay, that is Erik Erikson's social development theory. If you've never read Erikson, he is wonderful to read to understand the social emotional development of our adolescents and pre-adolescents. So is it really that they don't want to learn, or is it something else? I guarantee you it's something else. They are frustrated. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, what else could they be telling us? And you mentioned, so they are letting you know that what you're asking them to do is either A, are you ready? These are the top answers. It's boring. I'm going to stop there for my ADHD, ADD people. It's boring. I know how to do it, but I would rather be, getting my teeth cleaned. Like, it's boring. And if you're honest with your own self, y'all avoid things that you find very boring. I know I do. They're letting you know this is one of the most boring things on earth. Okay, I'm going to tell you what to do in a second. But first, you have to know what the behavior is telling us. Okay, you can also put some things in there in the chat if you want. What are they telling you? It's boring. I don't know how to do this. Even though I did it yesterday, my brain has not developed long-term muscle memory, and I don't know how to do it today. Very typical in children that are dyslexic, very typically in long-term memory challenges, short-term memory challenges, recall memory. There's so many things that have to happen in the brain for us to be able to do all kinds of things. I may not be able to handle the physical or the particularly fine motor skills that it takes to do this. My son is brilliant academically, but he has dysgraphia. So thus, writing even a couple sentences is like, oh my gosh, like I'm sending him to the gas chamber, right? So it's very important to realize they're letting us know, or they're mad. They're mad because I have spent all day in school and now you're making me do more schoolwork. Are you kidding me? Right? I'm so thrilled at the schools that have eliminated homework. I'm a big fan of no homework. Let me tell you what to do if that's what's happening. But let's just say that they have been in school all day. They've been told what to do all day. And many of our children, they're holding it all in, right? They're holding it all in. And so what happens is they're holding it all in, and now they just want to turn off their brain. That happens to my husband every day when he comes home, right? He wants to turn off his brain. All right. Would that be ASD also? Would a diagnose vision? Yeah, many things. And I was just going to get to that. What are all the things that can be happening? And one of them is certainly vision processing disorders can happen, right? So that is something we didn't realize in my Maya, that she had a visual processing disorder. And just there's like 9 different kinds of visual processing issues. And by the way, vision processing is not the same as eyesight. You can have a 20/20 eyesight. Maya has 20/20 vision, but she had visual processing disorder. So absolutely ASD. Oh my goodness. The next webinar I think I'm going to do on ASD because that has so many layers that we'll get to a little bit of them. Okay, let's go to the next one. So they're letting us know something's going on. Let's go to the next slide. Parent mindset shift. All right. I'm going to just touch base and then we'll get into some strategies and solutions. I talked about parent mindset shift is we've got to really, 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 again, be in control of our own mindset when we are facing a child who is discouraged, defeated, or just plain bored. Because here's the thing, if we get into, oh my God, if my child does not love school, they are not going to be successful. That is a lie. So I need everyone who feels that way to put that in the trash can. Just because a child does not academically enjoy academics, doesn't like school, does not mean they will not be successful. There are many different types of intelligence. And if you've never looked at multiple intelligence theory and understand that our brains are all wired very, very differently. Very, very differently. And so we must understand that some people are not linear learners, either because it's just boring and that's just not their jam. It does not work for their brain. Or like, I don't understand why my husband watches baseball. Like, why? For you baseball fans, why? Like my brain is like, no, I understand baseball. It's just like so boring to me. I don't even understand. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. No. Right. So if you understand why some things that other people find really exciting, but you find very boring, well, guess what? Your kids are the same way. The way the school is set up, what they're being asked is not exciting. But also they may have some learning disabilities or unidentified learning disabilities. But here's the thing. I need you to really not buy into the myth of the world that says that children will be successful if they are A students or if they love school. By the way, I did not love school, and I'm a learning and behavior therapist with several degrees. I hated school, just for the record, okay? Especially things that made no sense, and especially things that were boring and contextually I had no connection with. So please let go of your dreams. What do I mean by that? Some of the parents who come and see me will say, I want to make sure they're going to be an engineer, they're going to be a lawyer, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. I want to make sure they can apply for college. And I am not saying kids cannot go to college if they don't like school very much. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're not capable. Okay. I was a college teacher for 17 years. I'm saying that don't use that as the starting point, the future and your dreams about what you think this kid is going to do. Because when children hear, what about college? What about this? What about that? You won't be successful unless you have a college degree. When they hear that and they're struggling with school, what you're actually doing is shutting them down. You're actually creating a wall with your student. And it's a wall that's going to continue to build. And when they become 18, they are not going to want to talk to you. I'm just going to keep it very, very real. So please, please, please do not put the future on them. The future has not happened. Many individuals who either struggled in school or just never liked it can graduate. And one of the things I like to do is graduate people early and have successful lives. Okay. So really important with that mindset. All right, moving on. All right. Controlling parent or coaching parent. So this is really important. And I addressed it a little bit. If you try to control the situation, you will do this homework. You yell, scream, blame, shame, complain. You are now being a controlling parent. I'm a control freak in recovery, so no shame or judgment to any of the parents in this room right now, right? You know what? Many of us came from old school parenting. I get it. But if you do that to a child who already has communicated, I either don't understand this, I'm bored, this is too difficult, you are going to lose the battle. And more importantly, you know what's going to happen as children get older? They're going to, again, build a wall, and they're not going to want to communicate effectively to you what is happening. And it's very, very important for adolescents to have hope in the world. And one of the things that gives them hope is a parent who listens. One of the biggest mistakes I've made with my children is when I allowed an educator to tell me what's right for my kid, when I knew in my gut that something else was going on. And I've made that mistake, right? We need to listen, right? And we need to go into be a coaching. So what is a coaching parent? So I have something to ask you in the chat. What does a coaching parent do behaviorally? If you are a coaching parent, not a controlling parent, What kind of behaviors would you demonstrate when your child is frustrated? Who wants to take a shot at it in the chat? If you're a coaching parent, not a controlling parent, what kind of behaviors do you demonstrate in the process? Now, wait for a second. All right, I'm looking here. Remain positive, offer choices, would you like, etc. Those are some great strategies, right? Most important, remaining positive. Not easy when his mama's got 27,000 things to do, but breathing, remaining positive, right? One of the other ones in there, I'm trying to see, I can't see my chat very well. There we go. Work on the task and help investigate answers. Possibly, yes, that is another strategy, right? What we want to do is that, number one, if your child is shut down, meaning they're done, stop talking to them, put it away. And if that means you've got to write a note to a teacher to say, you know what, my child didn't get through this. We're trying to figure this out. We need to regroup. I need to talk to you, teacher, because you know what? We got to regroup this homework, right? We tried to do it. There's something going on. Either you know what's happening or maybe you don't know. And I help parents work with teachers to figure that out and advocate for their children, right? Because sometimes, hey, it is not worth it. And I need everybody to write this in big letters, whatever you're writing on. It is not worth it to damage the relationship with your child because you're worried that you're going to lose 10 points on this assignment. Not worth it. Not in the long term. Right? You tell that teacher, hey, sorry, we're working through this. We're trying to figure out some answers. So I think it's important to realize that the task at hand is not what's most important. What's most important is helping and coaching your child through the task at hand. But if they're shut down, we need to stop. We need to put it away without blaming, shaming, and complaining and lecturing and all kinds of things that sometimes we do. Okay. So that's what a coach does. A coach remains calm. A coach treats their child with respect and figures out what is happening. Okay. So, Sharpe secret recipe. Now, this is not my only secret recipe, but these are a couple of things, right? Reflective listening. What does that mean? You're really frustrated about writing that paragraph. What is it about that paragraph that's so difficult for you? Right? Maybe a child says, I hate math. I hate writing. I hate school. What is it that you hate about it? The teachers are stupid. Really? What is it that makes the teachers stupid? They're always yelling at me. They're always telling me I don't do my work fast enough. Oh, so the teachers are stupid because they're telling you that you don't do your work fast enough. Yes. So you don't want to try because you're not fast enough? Yes. So you're discouraged? Yes. And you don't even understand why you have to write this paragraph? Yes. That's reflective listening. That's getting into the conversation. That is hearing your child's heart. We've got to know what is happening with our children, right? That's very, very important to know. What are they going through? And sometimes if you have an ASD child, sometimes if you have a child that is not very verbal, not very articulate, they may not even know. If they're low on social emotional literacy, which is another thing that's really important to build in our children, is maybe they don't even know how to tell you that. That's very, very important, is reflective listening. Okay. So that is key. That if you don't do the reflective listening piece, you'll never get to problem solving. You'll never find the solution. You'll never build the trust of your child to trust you through this process that is so difficult for them. Okay. My husband and I do marriage coaching. People don't even understand reflective listening in marriage coaching sometimes, right? So we want to make sure that we're listening. Oh, can we go back? I'm going to go through the rest of them really quick. Can you give me a time check, Miss Allison? Because I don't have a time on my clock.
We're doing okay on time. It's just 12:30.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And please feel free to ask questions in the chat. Okay, so reflective listening is step one, right? Make sure that you're doing that. If you don't do reflective listening, you can't go to problem solving. Okay, you lose your child if you don't go reflective listening first and then problem. If you try to problem solve before you've listened to them, they're going to either withdraw more or they're going to anger more. And they're just going to get worse, worse, and worse. Okay. Reflective listening, then problem solving. And you could ask them, for example, I always like understanding what is difficult about the assignment, what is going on here. And then you can ask, do you want to break up and do two math problems now and two math problems after dinner? Sometimes it's what we call scaffolding. Sometimes it's just too overwhelming to do it all in one sitting. And I know as mamas, you want them to get it all done in one shot so you can move on, make dinner, have showers, move on in life and get everybody to bed, right? Sometimes we know that what happens is we have our own schedule, or they got to get to practice, they've got to get to soccer, they've got to do this, right? There's so many demands that we are faced, time demands. And that means that sometimes you got to write a note that says, you know what, we did two problems, that's all we could master. We'll catch up on the weekend, or I don't know, right? Whatever that may be for your child. Right. For my child, he's an excellent reader, but if he sees more than one paragraph, he freaks out. So I have to cut everything, cover things up, right? We've got to go into some problem solving to figure out how are we going to get this done. And I would include your adolescent in the problem solving. And in the beginning, they may not be very good at problem solving. So what you need to do is give them some ideas, give them some choices, right? And if they won't pick any of the choices, then ask, this is what I've thought of. Is there something else I'm missing? Sometimes we got to do that, right? We have to spread things. Many students don't work well under pressure. And some of these homework assignments, man, that I see because I work with the students, man, some of it is very unrealistic. And so we've got to really manage that. I always like to err on the side of this. Core subjects are the most important, obviously math and reading, right? I think those are important. And if I've got science homework, but I can't get to the science homework, I'm going to focus on the reading and the math, and then I'm going to write a note that my child's not doing science homework today. And I know that is very difficult in today's public school culture. But again, you are the advocate of your student. You are the teacher, whether you homeschool or not, you're the teacher. So that's really, really important. Okay. Second is school environment. If you have done all the things, you have tried problem solving, your child has an IEP or a 504, and you have attempted to work within the school system. One thing you may need an advocate, which is I do advocacy work in which maybe the IEP is wrong. Maybe the 504 is wrong. So sometimes it's the environment that kids go back in that they're so discouraged, and then they come home and they're just done, right? That might be something that's going on. But the other thing that may be going on is that this may not be the right school environment for your child. And I know parents don't like to think about that because it is complicated, it is layered, and sometimes we just don't know what the options are. And so one of the things I work with my parents a lot, who children are really struggling in school, is maybe we need another school environment, whether that's a different type of public school, whether that's a charter school, whether that's a private school. And by the way, because of COVID, we have a lot of private options that are actually very financially affordable. I know that private school is very expensive, but sometimes sometimes it is homeschooling, and not homeschooling in the sense that you've got to sit there and hold their hand all day. My children go to a hybrid school because I work, and so I need some free time to get my work done. So there are many options, and one of the things I do is I problem solve with my parents on what would be the best option. Again, we don't start with that, but that is something we want to consider if it is consistent. One of the things I also do with my students is give a functional assessment to figure out what is going on with brain processing. Again, vision. One of the things that we need to realize that sometimes something else is going on, either in the school environment, maybe it's too loud, right? Maybe it's physical. There's so many things that could be going on with that child, but school environment is very important. And so one thing that you can ask your child is, do you hate all your classes or just reading? Right? That's a great question to get some information. Is it all the classes he's struggling or she's struggling with? Or is it a teacher specific? Is there some teachers you like better than others? And if they think, yeah, I like this teacher. Well, why do you like this teacher, but you don't like this teacher? Do some digging, do some investigative, research. Ask your child questions about their school environment to find out if we can figure out, pinpoint, right? Get to the root issue of what is happening, right? Because I have to tell you, sometimes there's the way something is being taught is why they don't understand. And maybe the way, maybe you don't understand it, right? And that's when sometimes you have to hire a learning and behavior therapist, or you have to hire a tutor. Sometimes we need someone to fill in the gap. Sometimes you can fill in the gap. This is where YouTube mom and dads can be your best friend. I look up things on YouTube when I don't understand something. But back to that school environment, one thing that a lot of people miss, I missed it in my son who's ASD, is sometimes kids are being bullied. It sounds, well, what is that related to academics? Well, it's related to academics because if I don't do my homework, then maybe you won't send me back to school. That sounds silly, but sometimes that's the missing link. I mean, so many layers of school environment, and what are they experiencing that by the time they get home, they're tired, they're done, they don't want to do this work. So I think it's really important to look at that. If you have if you've had school testing and your child is still struggling, there are some many tests that the schools don't do. So that's where I help parents figure out what we call a gaps in assessment. So what is happening, maybe we don't know and we've missed something significantly. So that's important. Okay, short-term and long-term goals, this is really golden. Okay, let's say you already have given choices, and let's say you're like, okay, let's break this homework up into several pieces, or long, or kind of breaking it up into several days, right? And you're really, and the child's really struggling still. Well, one thing you could do is, what motivates them to do unpleasant tasks, right? And so that's what I call short-term goals, meaning short-term wise, what could you work out with your student to motivate them, right? In my case, I really am a huge fan of love and logic discipline, in the sense that, hey, I know this is really boring, but let's finish this and then you get to do this. That works for some students, not all students, but it works for a lot of students, in which they realize there's a reward. Okay, believe it or not, most of us don't go to work unless we get paid. Why? Because the reward is money, right? And so we need to realize that sometimes you do, for some students, need to give something that, okay, I'm going to suffer for a short time doing something that I hate so I can experience the pleasure of something later. Okay, now that does not work for every student, but it works for many students. For my two boys, those are huge motivators, in addition to chunking, scaffolding, breaking things down, having them work for a certain amount of time, and then we're done. So another thing that's also very helpful short term is, let's say they have math and they hate math, and there's 15 problems they have to do for math and they absolutely detest. Guess what? You can either say, do only the even ones, and then you tell a teacher, hey, we're only doing the even ones, or you can turn on a timer and say, hey, a visual timer, you're only going to work for 5 minutes, focus for 5 minutes, do as many math problems as you can, and then we're done. One of the things that happens with a lot of students is they feel that work just lasts way too long. Okay, I know that's how I feel about working out. It's way too long, way too long. I have to put a timer to help myself, right? So that's really things short term. Now, long-term goals, okay? And now I'm not giving you every single one. So if you've got a specific issue, please put it in the chat. I'm not giving you every single solution, but those are just some of the ones that I utilize a lot. Long-term, this is going to be so important for your adolescent, so important. If a child is not good at school, then they're constantly telling themselves, and I just met with a mom who was telling me this about their child in 9th grade. A lot of these things begin to happen somewhere between 7th grade and 10th grade, a lot of the upheaval, okay, is they begin to say either I'm stupid, or what hope is there going to be for me after high school? Because all we ever do as teachers in the public or private school system, and sometimes as parents, is, oh, we're getting ready to go to college. That's what number one thing I hate about our society, is that we're always telling everybody that they have to go to college after high school. So what we want to do is we want to work with our adolescent outside of the academics. I always say you homeschool even if you send your kids to school. Is what are the things they're passionate about, right? That's what we call their strength experiences. What are they passionate about? Super passionate about, that you can encourage and also help them develop, but also exposing them to experiences that may help them be excited about the future. Okay, that can be something as simple as I have a young girl who hates school, and next summer she's going to go to an art camp, and she's so excited about this art camp, right? So, what are those things that we can look forward to, that we can explore with our children about things they really enjoy? Okay. And that's called building hope through strength experiences. We want our children to realize that your whole life is not just academic, there's more to life than academics. Right. My husband and I are both educators, but we're the only ones in both our families who actually want our kids to be business owners. And it's funny because all the people who are not educators want their kids to go to college. And I say that because it's kind of funny in the sense that yes, college is one roadmap to a successful life, but it is not the only roadmap. But our students, if they're going to public school, that's all they're hearing. And so they're frustrated because they hate school. They think school is boring, or they're being told that that's the only roadmap. So you have to do that at home. So guess what? You get to homeschool career coaching at home. You get to at home, because adolescents want to know, is there more in life than these academics? So important to give our kiddos some hope. And do you have any questions, ma'am?
I wanted a couple of things that you mentioned,
Yeah.
and my kids are grown now, but we did public school for a little while, and it honestly wasn't a great fit for us. And we did homeschool, and like you, we took outside classes and things like that, and it ended up being a great experience. And there's a tremendous amount of flexibility that comes along with some of the homeschool. But one of the things that I hear you saying, Elizabeth, is it's really about meeting them where they are and finding out really what the root of the issue is. And I think back, to high school, and a lot of high schoolers, learning builds on the previous skill.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we missed because there was teaching to the test or some of the other things. Some of our kids, a lot of kids, it's not just kids that are neurodiverse, it's kids that don't have learning disabilities, are missing some of the key concepts because they move so fast through the material. But this particular topic, you have to get it to be able to move on to the next. So it's like you hit this roadblock, and now you can't do anything going forward because you missed that key concept. So my husband has always used a phrase that it says, they are where they are, they're not behind. They are where they are, they're not behind. And I think socially we look around and we think that they're behind, and we feel worried about some of those things. But for me, taking the time to step back and evaluate where we were, and yeah, we were a little bit behind, but saying, okay, you know what, we're going to go backwards so that way we can move forward and
Right.
thrive, as opposed to keep pressing on forward in something that they're not understanding. And we went backwards for a little while, but it made all of the difference. And so one thing that you said about like reduced course load, so when we have people with processing speed delays, working memory issues, they have some of the different issues. Yesterday we did a webinar on ARD meetings, 504s, IEPs, what have you. These accommodations for only doing the even or the odd or things like that, these are accommodations that you can and should request. I suggest that you request them in writing if this is an accommodation that's in line with the diagnosis, and get it approved. Because clearly, if you just decide to do the odds or the evens in the public school, the scores aren't going to be great. And I think there has to be an agreement in place. So kind of getting that, but that may make a difference. And they may have extra time on tests, extra time to complete assignments. There may be some discretion of the parent. These are things that you can see in some of these IEPs or 504s. They're not going to let you do the odd problems in college. That is not an accommodation that they're going to do in higher education. But all of these things may make a difference. And I also think, and I love that you're talking about, Elizabeth, that not everybody has to go to college. There are a lot of people that are simply not cut out for college. And some of our kids, they're not cut out for college right now at age 18. Their brains aren't even fully formed till 26. So it may be not now, but maybe 5 years from now or 10 years from now, they're going to thrive and get their degree and a master's degree, which will make you feel proud and happy. Or maybe within that time frame, they've opened up their own business and they're thriving and happy and making more money than they ever would have with the engineer degree that you wanted them to get. So, I mean, so
Absolutely.
I love having an open mind on that. I hired a person years ago, and he was a podiatrist by trade. And doing financial planning and all that kind of stuff. I thought it's interesting that you want to do this for a living and you're a podiatrist by trade. And nicest guy. And he said, I'll tell you what, my dad wanted me to be a podiatrist. I never wanted to. I hate feet. And and so he went all through school, and I mean he got his degree and he
Wow.
became a podiatrist, and he was acting as a podiatrist, and he absolutely hated it. And he was thriving and doing what he wanted to do, but it was his dad's dream. It was never his. And so that
Mhm.
really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I was wondering, let's look at the chat box. What I'd like to do things a little bit differently. We have a little extra time. We're not going to go over today, but what I would like you to do is I would like you to raise your hand if you have a question. And what I would like to do is unmute you and allow you to ask the question. So if you have a question, if you will raise your hand, then I will unmute you and call on you to ask your question. I'd like to just change it up a little bit today. Let me see if we have any other questions in the chat box while we're waiting for hands.
Yeah, I saw somebody mentioned executive function, which is so important. One of the quotes I heard a long time ago about what kind of going on what you said is, regardless whether your child goes to public school, private school, or homeschool, you're still the teacher. And so, if your child is struggling in school, getting those accommodations and or IEP plan is so important. But executive function is a lifelong thing, right? All of us have to work on our executive function. And that's why sometimes moms were stressed because our executive function is being really pushed to the hilt. So, yes, students need to learn executive function skills, and those are not taught in school. That's why I always say, even if your kid goes to school, you are a homeschooler when they get home, where either you learn how to coach your child. And one of the things is I have a parent group where I teach parents how to coach their own child, because you're with your child more often than I am, right? Certainly children come to me weekly to work on executive function skills, but I also work with the parent because you are the most important person. And I think you're right, Miss Allison, in the sense that we need to stop and realize that our children are brilliant and they're smart and they're bright. And if they're demonstrating frustration or resistance, we need to be investigative journalists, right? Investigative research. What is going on here? Because you love your child, right? But I, over the years, made mistakes with all my children of trying to make them fit into something that does not work for them. And I've learned, right? And so it's important to realize it's okay if in the past something didn't work, then we can move on and we can try a new approach. Did you see any questions in there, Miss Allison? I don't know.
I was just gonna say, if you guys can't raise your hand, I don't know if that's a function that's turned on. Just put it in the chat that you have a question, and then I will unmute you so you can answer it. And one of the things too, while we're waiting on that, Elizabeth, that I think about is this is all very scary, and it feels scary when you're a parent and your kid's struggling. You get a report card and the grades are bad, or maybe you've done a ton of advocating and you've had an advocate and you have this wonderful IEP in place, and maybe it's just not being carried out as effectively as possible. Maybe there are still some struggles. I guess what I would encourage, and this is just from personal experience, is don't be afraid to get out of the boat. If what you're doing is not working and it is bad, and it's bad for you and it's bad for the whole family and it's bad for your student, look at other options. There are other viable options. Yes, there are very expensive private schools, but there are other private schools that are more affordable. You can reach out to Elizabeth. She can talk to you about those. There are homeschool, and a lot of people think that I could never homeschool because I work full time, or but there are a lot of other groups or outside classes. There are online accredited classes, accredited versus non-accredited. It really doesn't even matter in
Yeah.
school, but there's a lot of options, and so I think sometimes people don't get out of the boat because they're afraid of what may be on the other
Mhm.
side. But from my perspective, I made that decision to get out of the boat, and my theory behind it was, okay, well, if this is a really bad idea, if this turns out to be the worst idea I've ever had, then I know where the public school is, I know where the
Yes.
private school is, and you can always go back. You can correct, you can auto
Yep.
correct.
Yep.
And we never did. So
Yeah.
that was the interesting thing, is that we finally got out of the boat, and it was very, very scary, but we never did go back. So one person says our issue is trying to nail down the motivation. It's such a moving target. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. One of the myths about motivation, there's a difference between motivation and discipline. Okay. Motivation is a feeling. It's this idea that I am so excited to do this, right? And so many times we say motivation, but really pushing through something that we don't like doing or is difficult requires discipline, right? And requires a support team, which is the parent, and then a skill set that I may not have. And so a couple of questions is, instead of focusing on how do I motivate? Now, sometimes it's easy, like, hey, once you do your homework, you get to watch TV. That's an external motivator. Okay. It works on my 9-year-old and my 8-year-old, right? Nobody gets anything till chores are done and this is done. And they understand that. But when children hit adolescence, right? My children have not hit adolescence. They're pre-adolescent. They're getting there, but they're not yet adolescents. What happens with adolescence and pre-adolescence, right, is now it isn't, sometimes that carrot is not enough anymore. What I need is to learn discipline. I need to learn the executive function skills, that how to push through, perseverance, right? How to overcome, how to advocate for my own needs. How do I explain why this is so troubling? Social emotional literacy. I just was on, I have a bunch of ninth graders, boys I'm working with, that don't know how to advocate for themselves, don't know how to express their feelings, don't know how to do these things that are so important so they can express to those around them what they're going through. So I think that the bottom line is this: I don't go to work every day because I'm motivated every day, and quite the opposite. I love what I do, but there are days I want to sit in bed all day and eat bonbons. But I have to develop the discipline to do what I have to do every day, that sometimes, and we as adults learn how to push through that. Well, if you ask a different question of your student, what are the executive function skills that's missing? What are the discipline routines this child is missing? Where are the gaps in skill set? So then you can look at it. For example, maybe one of the skills, because I don't know the context of your question, this is what I do with parents. I figure out the context. What is happening? What are the layers, right? Maybe one of them could be, this is a simple one. I just don't want to do schoolwork after school. Can I do schoolwork at 8:30? Okay, that sounds silly. Maybe it's, I don't really know how to hold this pencil, right? Maybe it's, I don't like typing. Maybe it's cursive makes no sense to my brain. Maybe it's, you know what, like you said, Allison, I didn't learn how to do double digit multiplication, but in order to do the fractions, I don't know how to do the double digit multiplication. And in fact, I don't understand the relationship between multiplication and addition. Oh my gosh, right now, a lot of my clients are ninth grade and eighth grade individuals who never got the foundational math, and they're trying to push through high school. And it's
That's
very
true with
challenging.
reading, and they
And
may be
reading as well.
struggling in all of the subjects because they never learned how
Right.
to read great. And then you start getting in upper sciences and these big, big, big,
Oh,
big words. And yeah, I mean, it's a real issue. I want to unmute uh, Kathy for a moment so she could communicate her question just a
mhm.
little bit further.
Perfect.
Let me see if I can do that. Hold on one second. I'm not great
Okay.
at this. Okay, allowed to talk. Okay, Kathy, you have been turned on. So if you wanted to share a little bit more about your about your question or take it a little bit deeper.
Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me.
We
Mhm.
can.
She just sometimes just not does the work. It's like, well, if like you said, maybe for the younger, if you do X, we'll do Y. Um, and unfortunately, the school, she's 17, third year freshman, but they had unfortunately pushed her from freshman classes to sophomore the first year without meeting all the prerequisites.
Mm.
And that was before really any kind of 504 IEP. But so we're trying to catch up that way. And I guess the main issue is just to help her focus one day at a time and try and find the motivation to not think that school is jail. And we've already talked to her a great bit, and so has the school, that she doesn't have to go to college.
Mhm.
There's many people that earn great livings and can put food on their table and a roof over their head. And that's our goal for her, is to do that and
Mhm.
be successful in whatever she chooses that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. Kathy, what you're saying, gosh, there's so many layers to it. So let me just try to be the simplest one. She, there, deep down inside of her, she has a reason deeper than what we're kind of seeing. Talking to teens and telling them things never gets you to the root issue. It never does. Okay. And so I think it's important that if you've tried all the things, what's happening is we have not gotten to the root issue of the inconsistency in terms of her doing work. And so one of the things I would say is this. Um, Asking some open-ended questions, meaning about if you could do things any way you would want to do them, how would you do them? If you could make any choice about school, what would you choose? Right. And just sitting there for a second to see if she has enough trust to answer that. And then going from there, because we have to gather more information. Two of the things that I developed two programs that are very low cost for this reason. One is I developed a homeschool coaching program, and most of the people in there are working mothers, is because sometimes getting out of the boat is the answer. And I love what Allison said. Getting out of the boat is the answer. And I'm here to help you navigate that whole thing. Okay. And I love it because it is super fun and super doable, even if you work full time. But the other thing is, I developed a behavior management coaching program in which, Kathy, we would sit on Zoom and we would go through these questions. And really, I would ask a lot of questions of you to get into some deeper reasons of what's occurring. It's hard to just quickly give you a quick answer, but I'm going to say you haven't figured out the root issue of her lack of motivation. The other thing that, again, can be an answer for anybody, not just Kathy, is graduating early is so possible. Okay. So that is something I also help parents do when kids really are at their wits' end and they're done and we can't move them. So what I do is I do an educational consultation with families and I help them develop a roadmap to an early graduation and then a roadmap what happens after that, right? So I think that I'm not saying, Kathy, that's the answer for your child, but it is one answer. And
And
I
I want to add, I mean, so I hearing Kathy, it makes me think that, if a person is a third year freshman, that you can't help but feel defeated. So at a point that a person feels so defeated, why should I even try? That's a real thing that starts coming up. But the thing is there are wonderful credit recovery programs out there. There's a lot of stuff. So I would say, consult Elizabeth, but there are a lot of things out there.
yes.
But what you said, Elizabeth, I did this with my own child, that sitting down and even having a notebook and writing notes of what they say, because what they're saying is so important. You want to write it down, of
Yes.
asking them how they feel. Look, I think you're really smart and you've got a lot of good ideas. What do you think? And what do you think would be the best path forward? And let's put this together. Let's put a plan together, and with what you think in mind, not what I think. It doesn't matter what I think. Let's put a plan together with what you think, And when we did that with one of our kids, it was like a light bulb moment.
Yes.
It really made a difference. So anyway, I just, for anybody that's out there, I hear it, I see it in the chat and everything. It is tough. This is so hard when you've got a struggling learner and you think, wow, I'm not even equipped for this. I didn't learn how to teach kids with learning disabilities. And, you know, it's really, really hard. Or, you know, I look back and I laugh now, but it wasn't funny then, or how we relearned the times tables 3 or 4 years in a row. And each year after the summer it came back, it was like we had never even discussed it and we had spent a whole year on it. And wow, how defeating that feels. But it does come full circle, and there's tons of support out there, credit recovery, different programs. And I know that we are out of time for today. I'm going to put Elizabeth's contact information on the screen so you see that. Guys, you guys are going to get a copy of today's slides, a link to the recording, all of Elizabeth's contact information. You can reach out to her directly for a consultation, but you're in the right place. And this is it's a constant push pull when it comes to learning and our kids and finding that right, you know, kind of that right fit. But like I said, just don't be afraid to get out of the boat. Maybe just what is happening isn't working. Maybe there's bullying going on, and there's so much bullying going on that they can't even focus on their work. You never know. But just be encouraged that there are options out there. We're so glad that each one of you took the time to be here with us today. And don't be defeated. Raise up, get a plan, have a plan, work your plan, and include your student in that. And then they're gonna buy right into that plan. So thanks so much, everyone, for being here with us today. And we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you, Elizabeth. It was wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye now.